Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Zoom Test Kitchen. I'm Jeff Widgren, your host, and man, I love doing this. This Zoom Test Kitchen is great. We've learned so much, shared so much. We live stream to our YouTube channel. You can find that with the @ symbol, Zoom Test Kitchen. We also have a Discord server that you're welcome to join. That's in the invitation as well, if you got the email invitation. I added a new channel to our Discord, which is called ZTK Recordings. I must have forgot to turn a switch back on in the portal, so I can't cloud record today. But when the cloud, from not this day, but next week's, when the meeting is over and the cloud recording is available, it'll automatically post into that Discord channel a link to the viewable recording, and that seems redundant for the YouTube channel, and it is a little bit, but the viewing on Zoom is pretty rich, right? You get to see the chats, you get to see the full transcript, and the whole bit as well. So you have your choice whether you want to see it on playback from Zoom. It does require registration, which is just your name and email, and also a password, which is the Zoom Test Kitchen password that we normally use to get in the meeting, plus the, I'll say, bang or exclamation with followed by a number 1, and that'll remain consistent. So anyways, that's kind of it. It seems to be a companion day. I was not paying attention to the office hour schedule this week as far as topics, and was pleasantly surprised to see the second hour focus on companion, and because I just love it. I mean, and it is. I've spent a lot of time on companion beta version 3.0, and they push new builds every day. Weekends maybe not quite so much, but every single day during the week for sure. And it's rich and it's powerful, and it can even be a decision maker for us today. You know, it can take information and decide do this or do that, and have triggers sitting in the background watching for things to happen, and when they happen, do this, you know. And so it has really becoming a richer and richer tool. So that's kind of what's on my mind. And so we intended to talk a little more companion last week, but the topic of recording took up the whole time and more. So I'm really just following up on finishing what we started last week, and I don't know, there's a lot of interest. So anyways, let welcome a few great folks here. Let me pull it into gallery and say hi to my good friend Ray. Bobby, is it Grandone or Grandoni? Almost. Not yet. Oh, I don't have you guys locked out, do I? No, you can unmute.
Grandone.
Grandone? Okay. And you don't want to turn your mic up. Tamra.
Hello.
Hey. Hasmuck. You're not a meter, you're a human. I'm really glad to have you here. I always know it's a stretch and it's late for you, but pleased to have you here in our presence. Mark Horner. I see Mike Lotta. Here's a new feature, by the way. I'm going to let you see my order and just tell you to follow. If you look at gallery view, you're looking at the order I'm looking at now. And I didn't have to do anything but turn that on. That wasn't previously available. You used to, as a host, you used to have to move at least one tile, and then you could click on follow host order. So, you know, like when you're taking attendance, I think about office hours, you know, they'll do their sound checks. They'll say, hey, Ray, we're going to check you next. And then that's going to be followed by Bobby and Tamra. Well, Bobby and Tamra have to remember what they said because they're not seeing the same gallery order as the guy doing the sound checks and calling that out. So if you set follow host order on, and then you'll see that Ray is in the top left, Bobby's in the top right, and then on the very bottom right would be James. And so you see what I see. If I want to reorganize my order while you're looking at my order, you'll see things move around as well. And so anyways, that is a little bit of a distraction, but it's a new feature, just in the sense that follow host order has been there for quite a while, but not until you customized your order. Now you don't have to customize your order. You can just synchronize your gallery order to everybody in the meeting. All right. So we've got a few here. We've been confident, like always, more will show up, but we're just going to jump into focusing on companion here in the Zoom Test Kitchen. Our most popular module naturally is ZoomOSC and ZoomISO, and so we'll apply a lot of what we're doing there. But companion itself is a topic of its own. It really is. It's such a powerful platform and a lot of flexibility and so forth. So it'll really be a strong mix of both, and then we'll get it applied to to your implementation. And so, how many of you have Companion installed already on your systems? So we've got yeah, everybody on video says yay. And how many of you have external stream decks to represent that companion build as well? Okay, we're all there. How many of you have ZoomOSC? Little fewer, but almost everybody. Very good. So we've got a great tool set. I would say you make sure that if you're going to work with us today in our workshop style and so forth, make sure the first thing that you do is an export of your companion build, and just so it outputs, it basically saves it to your downloads folder. And then after the kitchen today, you can re-import it and write over everything you did, and or you have a point of recovery if you need that as well. So now, how many of you, I'm going to focus on Companion 3.0. The stable build is 2.42. That would be the recommended go to production with. Might think this is a production, and it is to a degree. It's not meant to be a show, but this is always a risky production. I come on the air to fail in front of all of you. It's just, that's the way it works, and that's the way we learn best. And literally, I'll end the meeting and go into GitHub and submit issues that are sometimes identified in the Zoom Test Kitchen as well, so that the developers can get some of those things attended to and fixed or tweaked accordingly. So with that, I'm on 3.0. Today's build is 5753, and like I said, they push that at least a build a day, but sometimes you'll see a build jump 2 or 3 digits. But how many of you are in fact running right now 3.0 during the Zoom Test Kitchen? So we've got a few. Okay, great. So there'll be several contributors, and not that you have to lead the way, but if you I'm going to try to keep in mind that there are students here, there are teachers here, and most of us are in between, right? We're always learning, and we might in fact have something pretty cool to share with others as well. So as far as Companion 3.0, one of the questions that stood out, it's not that I have the perfect answer, but one of the questions that stood out in the second hour of office hours, somebody asked and said, what's the difference? What are the primary kind of key differences between 2.42 and 3.0? And I know some of the things that really stand out to me are during the development phase and you're trying to get something working, especially when it's like automation and so forth, um, versus management. There's like management and there's automation. And with that, when you go behind the scenes, if I make a switch to the Mac, and then you go behind the scenes to the connections tab. There we go. You've got your different modules and so forth that you choose to use or what are required to suffice your needs and so forth. So if I've got the OSC module, the vMix module, and so forth. Each one of them actually can run its own log, and I think that's essential. And it's this icon right here that if you click on that, it'll open up a new tab, and this is a log strictly for the OSC module, and you can open up another one for the vMix module and so forth. So they're individualized, and naturally there's one for if you go to the primary tab here, that's the companion module log. That's always been there. But with that, I really wanted to point that out because it's a fantastic troubleshooting tool. So you can see here that right now Jeremy Horn has joined, Tony Mobley, and so forth. So, and then you see there's a little bit of jump out on not that the blue is a problem. That's actually color coded info versus the dark is the console. So if I were to spotlight, let's say Bobby, you'll see that the information is getting sent there. And so now it actually exposes to us, if you've never really seen the details before, the actual OSC message. And
make it a little larger for us.
Let's see. There we go. That work? All right. So I think it's a great tool. It tells me, hey, here's the message. So if you wanted to send your own generic OSC message, you have the format, you have what's being sent. It says it's with arguments. The first argument is of type integer, so it's a number, and then it sends its value with that number as well. And so not that everybody is going to dig into this, but to be able to troubleshoot, and you can take the basic info out and the warning out and just go with errors, and so only if there's actual breakdowns, and so you can turn those on, turn those off, and so forth. So right now with these all lit up, I'm not sure that I totally agree with the way they've got these things not color coded, but kind of shaded off, shaded on, and unshaded on. But once you get used to it, so if you aren't looking at any detail, that's what it looks like. If you want to see errors only, light it up, warnings only, light it up, and so forth. And so you can even see a chat that is coming in from David. And so anyways, I think it's super important. If in life I've come from the development world, and there's nothing worse than a problem except not having the tools to expose what's contributing to the problem during the troubleshooting. And so with that, I think it's essential to know what tools do we have at our disposal. Now, if I go over to my other screen here, you'll see, and let me remove that, cover some of that up. and re-spotlight that. I don't think it'll be so bad now. The other tool that you have with ZoomOSC and ZoomISO is the log itself in this. So if I can go verbose and get all the data that's moving in and out, and it says I'm speaking. Ray, go ahead and speak.
I'm speaking from Central Florida, saying good afternoon.
There we go. So, now I'll say be careful. There was a time only a few weeks ago where I had this on verbose and I went to a real job, and the real job had about 700 people in the meeting, and a verbose log with that many people cavitates the system. And that was my own fault. I didn't catch it. I didn't even catch it in the show. I just realized that I was having problems, and then I was writing back and forth to Andy later, and I said, never mind. I just realized I was an idiot, and because I was kind of poking through things, and I realized that it was still on debug, and so that was certainly my own doings. But this can be your very best friend on why something's not working, or if in fact it is working successfully as well. So, all right. Questions first. Let me just kind of go to the group and invite any kind of discussion you want around. Let's keep it to companion instead of OSC or whatnot for now, and just anything that's been on your mind. How does it do? Can you do? Whatever the case may be. Let's start there. You raise your digital hand if you want.
I'll break the ice. I have OSC running, and I have a half a dozen things running in the background. They're YouTube channels with pretty pictures. And I add one, and I go into Companion to add a button for it on my Stream Deck. And what happens if you press the button gives me the list of the latest piece that I just added in OBS. But the what's that feedback section doesn't put it in the list. How do I synchronize it so that the both sides of Companion get the changes that I made in OBS?
I believe, now I'm not a companion module developer, but my guess would be that is owned by the module developer. If you if it's displayed there, but is the feedback displaying, but it's displaying the old data?
Yeah, the feedback section has just the old list, does not have the newest item, but if you press the button, it does have the newest item. So I can't synchronize the two, and I'm experimenting. Wonder if anybody's got an idea how I can solve that.
Yeah, I don't think it's your direct resolution, other than if I take this a step further and go back to the the Mac screen and go to, this is what I'd recommend you do, is go here to
GitHub. Yeah,
GitHub, and
I'll do that.
Find the OBS module. Yeah, and here's OBS Studio. I'm assuming that's the one. And they've got 388 issues submitted right now, so they're pretty busy. But I would definitely, encourage everybody to get familiar with, GitHub and find those module projects and become a contributor. It's super important that they get the feedback, and it's not just about bugs. You can submit a bug, which has to be verified by them anyways, right? Is it really a bug or a user error? You can submit requests for new features. Tamara had a few days ago, her and I were working together and has this type of use case that feels personal to her, but I think it certainly contributes to a kind of across the board. If it was um, available, then I think there are a lot of people who could benefit from that type of workflow. And so I submitted that as a feature request as well. And then you can ask questions, like the vmix module um, on 3.0. It doesn't show broken. I'm not sure why. like the other ones, like it doesn't have that icon, but it's broken. Like it's not 3.0 ready. They know it's not 3.0 ready, but they aren't releasing public betas either while they develop it. You have to download your own and so forth. So but I submitted and said, hey, before I really knew, is there somebody actively working on upgrading this module in GitHub? I simply asked the question, submitted a ticket and asked the question. And so it's a place for, that conversation about the module and its development as well. So anyways, that would be my suggestion, Ray, because to me, the module owns what's in the drop downs, the values and choices that are in the drop downs, both in feedback and so forth. We've had, as the OSC ISO module continues to develop, we've had several areas that we have a field that we want to be able to be represented by the value of a variable. But it would take that value that we put in there, which was a variable, and it would submit it literally. And it wouldn't resolve the variable and then submit that resolved value. And so, submit it, and they own that translation or resolution of a variable as well. So I think when it becomes what you're seeing versus what you think you should be seeing, that's a module issue. So Bobby, you have your hand up. Still muted.
All right. I guess that's the quote of the century. Thank you. Since you were talking about OBS, my question is in my companion OBS module that I made, everything that's seen to preview is going straight to program. Is there something in the back end that I could change to reverse that? Like this sounds like something's just kind of not switched correctly.
I am I have to defer. I'm a vmix guy, not an OBS guy, so I'm I mean, I've worked a little bit with OBS, but I'm no expert at all there, nor am I at all familiar with the companion module for OBS. So if there's anybody else that knows, certainly feel free.
Yeah, everything's just reversed. Thank you.
And Mark, how are you, Mark?
I'm doing well, Jeff. Thank you. How are you doing?
Good.
Good. So I'm a relative newbie to Companion. I'm using it with Stream Deck and the 810 Mini Pro ISO. And so I share that just to let you know where I'm coming from. I have a rather elementary question, I think. Near the beginning of the meeting, you talked about backing up. I'm not sure of the exact terminology that you were referring to. Basically, I kind of sensed it was my profile or what I've already built inside of Companion for my 810 setup with my Stream Deck. I don't know how to back that up if that's what you were talking about, and I'd be curious how to do that.
Yeah, so if we go take a look, and when you're on, that's the common look, right? We're working on something. If you go over to the import export, and it doesn't matter. I mean, you can have multiple pages and the whole bit. Just go to the import export tab and click on export, and by default it's just going to dump the whole profile, and it will save it to the downloads folder. But as you move along, if you want to share something with somebody, you can be selective about the components you want to export as well, but just simply click on download. You can kind of see on the bottom left corner there, it
Oh
it
yeah.
exported it to the downloads folder, and that's the
It-
file.
Is it doing that for all of your connections, all of your hardware devices or
That's
software that are connected?
that option that I chose, as far as the connections, buttons, triggers, everything,
Oh, gotcha.
that did it all. And
Okay.
so even it doesn't spell them out on the screen, but even if you've included images in your buttons, those get exported inside that file, not as an outside repository or folder reference as well. So
Beautiful.
it
Thank you
becomes
very much.
very portable. So, if you were to walk over to a different machine and import that file that got exported, you can import at that point. If I say import, it'll say what, right? And so if I sort it by date, it's that one. And you can do a full import or selective on the different components. If you're basically do a wipe on what you're importing to and a replace, or you don't do that and you go to the buttons tab and or triggers tab, and on the buttons tab, this is the source page that is coming from the import file, and you're saying send it to this page on my Stream Deck. And so even though I already have this in my system, I'm saying, hey, take what's currently on page one, and it's not a move, this is an import from a file, and place a copy of that on page 95.
Ah,
And so you can do, I mean, this is this is a way that, if you want to duplicate pages, just do an export and then import it and then bring in a page at a time, page at a time, page at a time. Or I could say page 1 to 95, and it knows it knows what modules I've already got them, and so it's connecting them together and all. I'll just say import to 95. And so you can see page 95 now has that. If I want another copy of it on page 96, I'll import that, and now 95 and 96 both have that. And so you have the freedom to kind of pick up, move, duplicate, and so forth as well with the imports and exports.
that's really handy to know. I was watching Office Hours and it was mentioned, if I recall correctly, this morning that moving pages, reorganizing can be a real challenge once you get deep into it. But now I know how to.
Yeah, not so bad. I will say that that now the difference between 2.4.2 and this beta 3, there's a lot more flexibility in importing and exporting as well. So as far as choices of components and triggers only and so forth, that like if you and I were talking about, hey, how do you do that? I think the one trigger that they mentioned today, on like if you raise your hand, it automatically sends you a chat message. I have that trigger off at the moment, but we'll talk about it later. But if that was something somebody, in the Zoom Test Kitchen wanted, now I have the ability to just export triggers, and I can send that to you, and then you can just import that trigger. And because that's kind of a snippet of code, if you will, right? And you never used to be able to be that granular about it. So but I will say it takes, I mean, I just did that live during the show, like that's the biggest platform of being nervous about doing something. But let that represent the level of comfort I have with exporting and importing. And the comfort only is I know what the results are going to be, right? And so you just have to do it. Make a full export, go tuck it away somewhere on your file system, and then go back and just play.
Okay.
And and because it doesn't matter if you mess it up. You go back to that one, do a full import, wipe and replace, and away you go. And if you wanted to, talking about kind of wipe and replace, there there's a wipe page. So if I go here and scroll down here a little bit, maybe. Oh, there's really not room to scroll. Let's see. Oh, that's the master. No, it's not the master. That's the right side. That's the left side. I don't know why my PTZ presettings are off now all of a sudden, but oh, now I know. I'm not full screened where I was when I set them. That's supposed to be a little bit better. Sorry about this, but I want everybody to be able to see it too. That's closer. Anyways, with that, I'm going to go back to full and work with this. But you have, let's talk about removal first, and that is you can take a button. Let's just start at the smallest piece. Take a button, highlight it. You can click on delete, remove a button. Now, it's not just going to delete. It actually is a little bit kind of screwy in the sense that you really don't have to click the button first. Just click delete. And again, you click delete, then you can choose the button, then you can choose to confirm, right, that you want to remove that button. Or let me copy one first. And I'll make a duplicate there. So if there's a button there, you can start by clicking on the button and just hitting the delete key on your keyboard and pressing enter, which I find way faster. You just click and I have these two fingers just waiting, right, to be able to, confirm that as well. So that Ray, I'm losing it, Ray. My button to get my picture up there too, so I'm still human, not just a voice. So that's removing a button. You can also, since we made a couple of extra copies of these pages for the import example, you can also wipe the page. And so that's just this page, not the whole Stream Deck. So it says, you want to clear all the buttons on 95 and there's no going back from it. Well, there's not an undo going back, but you could re-import it if you had a export sitting out there on the file system. But I think it's a worthy message. This is a pretty serious commitment. So I'll say reset, and so it wipes the page out and it resets these buttons as well. Let's say that let me get positioned here to zap some buttons. And let's say for some reason you decide you wanted to, I did this, and now I'm putting them back. But I removed those. I wanted to maximize the number of buttons I had to use and so forth. And you come back and you decide, I want those page navigation buttons back. That's what the reset page buttons is. And even if you had, let's take this page, which is still a copy, right, from that import. So I'll just play accordingly. And let's say it was a page that didn't have those buttons. Now I want to add them back in. And so I will click on reset page buttons and confirm that. And it just populates the top left, second one down, and third one down exactly as you see them here. Now, the only thing that takes away from exact is if in your settings you had this flip counting direction on page up and down buttons, show pluses instead of the arrows. And so you would see things change, but same position. When you do a reset page button, you're always going to get those three buttons repopulated with the navigation and display. And that'll do that. The big change is wiping the whole thing. And if you I remind myself where that is. Settings, triggers, export. Someone might have to help me with this one. I don't know if I remember where the total wipe is. Import, export, I think. Import, export, reset and import. That will do the reset. But if I just wanted to reset the whole thing, is it under settings?
Is it reset configurations on export import?
Which tab? Oh, that's why that's not looking terribly. I was in the middle of something there. All right. So on import export, you have your import, your export, and the full on reset. Put this thing back to factory default, if you will, and that you can do. So if you do it now, this one button, let's say you did a full export on one system, went to another system. On 3.0, you don't, on the other system, if you wanted to kind of wipe it and then import, you can do that all in one stroke on 3.0 by doing a full import, and it will replace. If I point to that again, this says reset and import. It will do that reset config and then pull it all in. Commonly, you'll be importing pages that have module dependencies and so forth. The one thing that I caution you with is when you're doing imports of pages, naturally, I mean, this one page could have dependencies on a soundboard, a lighting controller, you know, a Zoom module, a vMix module, all in one page. And so if you already have those modules in your companion, tie the need of the page that is being imported to the existing modules. Otherwise, it's going to, you can tell it to ignore, which means it won't have an assigned module, or create a new connection. If you tell it to create a new connection, it will, if I have a vMix module already and I import something that's dependent on a vMix module, but I don't relate it to the module, in this case, OSC ISO, if I say create, it will create a duplicate module, and one for the stuff you've already had dependencies on, and now this new page that you said to create a new connection for. In a lot of cases, that might not be the end of the world, but it's sloppiness, if you will. There's no reason to have, seldom is there reason to have, I should say, duplicate modules, but there are some use cases for it. The ZoomOSC ISO in particular can be on a large meeting, can be moving and updating a lot of data, you know, all the participants and Zoom IDs and so forth. And any module that is enabled is doing its job behind the scenes all the time. And so if in fact you have a use case that requires duplicate modules for OSC ISO, when I'm doing the kitchen, I shut off the other modules. When I'm doing that job, I shut off kitchen's modules and I turn there, you know, so you could find yourself in the need to maybe actively manage them as well. All right. I think that's what I've got. Export, import, deletion. I did, Jonas, he pointed out some shortcuts. So let me say I want to duplicate admin. Copy, select the button you want to duplicate, point and click where you want it duplicated, or select it, controller command C, controller command V, and you can paste it. Something I had never gotten myself in the habit of doing until I heard it out of Jonas's voice this morning was moving with a keyboard shortcut is Control X and Control V for paste. Oops, I messed that up. Control X and then Control V, and it will cut it and paste it. So when you cut it, it doesn't disappear until you paste it. and then it actually, you know, accomplishes a move. So thanks to Jonas for that.
I found that the other night by accident because I use those keystrokes in every single thing because I'm old, and I
Yeah.
accidentally just did it without thinking about it, and I was like, "Oh, it works! Awesome!"
Yeah, yeah. You know, and so what remains on our wish list is clicking and dragging buttons from one place to another, right? That would be a good day.
If I can
So,
keystroke, cut, and paste, I'm cool. They
Yeah.
have my love.
yeah.
And also, of course, Control C does work for PC users as well to copy and paste.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Like the-
control or command, depending on what platform you're
Yep.
on.
Yep.
And then copy, paste, and cut are all supported. And then the delete key, like I said, is supported to, you know, select the button first, tap delete, and then confirm it with enter. Keeps you on the keyboard. Outside of that, other questions? Tamara, you got your hand
Jeff,
up.
I'm sorry, Tamara, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah.
I'm going to kind of change subject. So if this is something that's continuing, I would defer to Ray.
Just quick, and that is for those of us that are not in 3.0 but want to test it, what are the risks of switching from one to the other since we're going to use 2.4 until 3.0 is
Yeah.
show ready? Give us the
So
guidance on switching back and forth.
It's a great question. So let me just show you my world. It's not very clean at the moment, but when in my applications folder of the Mac, I could do it out here by uniquely naming my applications, but what I've done, I've just created this, you know, underscore, so it sorts up top apps. And in here, I have a 2.42 folder, a 3.0 folder, a ZoomISO beta folder, and a ZoomOSC beta folder. I don't even know what versions these are out here right now. They're there, but I don't launch from them anymore, except satellite I do. But so when I am getting ready to do a job, I just come here, I double click, and I just launch Companion, and because I know that's 2.42. The profile associated to 242 is in there, and I don't know if it's in there, but it's somewhere on the file system that's separate from the 3.0 profile. So when I launch that, it loads my previous profile that's completely compatible with 242. When I am getting ready, you know, for the kitchen, then I launch the 3.0. The other thing that I should show you fairly is when I go to the companion site to sign in and check to see is there something new to download, I go ahead and I get that done, and I'll do that, but it's going to be longer than I want it to. Their download is like really slow for like 176 meg. It's just their server, I guess. But it takes a little bit to get it downloaded as if it's large, but it's not. But when it gets downloaded, naturally, we have it in the file system. So with that, I've got that build downloaded here already. And so I will open a second Finder window, and I open up that apps folder. I open up that companion 3.0 folder, and then I'll double click on the download. And instead of dragging it to applications here, I just drag it to this folder and replace it. And that way I know that I've got the latest, and then I close and eject that mount, and that folder will always have the latest that I have downloaded and installed. So that works for me. It's not an absolute have to for everybody, but it lets them coexist. They can't run at the same time. 242 and 3.0 don't try to launch them at the same time, but they certainly can coexist and then run one at a time. So
Yeah,
all
Jeff,
right.
I just want Jeff, I just wanted to add for the PC world, I've done something similar as well. So when you actually do the actual 3.0 beta on PC, what I did was I told it not to go into the default companion folder during the installation and actually make like a beta folder. So I've now got the main one in the main companion installer folder, and in the beta folder, I've now just running the beta. So now I could switch between the two in the
Very
PC world.
cool.
That seemed to be working for me.
Yeah, good deal. Good deal. Tamara.
First, that's way smarter than what I did because I ended up overwriting one of the other by accident, but it didn't matter because I don't have enough built in. So just be careful of that if you're a little bit lower on the scale, like I am. I replaced it. Could you go over in the 3.0 how to latch? Because it was so like it was just a click button before, and now I don't know how to do it, and I'm trying to do it.
Yeah. So no, it's a great question because it's definitely a feature change the way it works these days. So let me approach what is latch first, for those who may not be familiar with it. I describe and think about latch as a walkie-talkie, the push to talk, right? If you're not pushing it, they're not going to be hearing you. And so you press and hold, and when you're done, you let your thumb off the button and you're done transmitting. That's the natural behavior of an unlatched button on a Stream Deck. Press and release, right? Now, there is groupings. If you take a look, see if I can get this to fly to that in the sense that you have the ability to control both. I gotta fix my Zoom. Sorry about this. I'm gonna go back here, and it will be sensitive to actions that you want it to do for the press, and a different set of actions potentially for the release of the button. The latch in 242 or prior held the button, allowing you to press and release it, but it would act like it was latched pressed only. So the release actions that you defined did not execute till you pressed and released it again. That simple check mark that said these press and release actions, latch them, and then it would say latch action and unlatch action. So you would know that you could press the button twice. The first time press and release would be the latch actions. The second time would be the unlatch actions. They've taken that checkbox away, and they've given us what's called steps. So if you don't add any additional steps, you end up with a tab. They just updated this in just the last few pushes. It used to say step 1 by default, but now they leave it at actions until you add a second step. Then it shows you step 1 and step 2, and then you can alternate between those two. So what happens, what you can do is, let me try to remind myself. Oh yeah, I do. I know I have a page that can demo this. All right. So I have a page that these are module monitors. So my my office lights, my studio lights here is this button. And the reason I can do that, like my lights are off, and let me turn my picture back on so you can see this changing. All right, you see I'm dark right now, and now I'm going to turn them back on by pressing that button, right? Well, the reason that works is because I have a module here for my TP-Link wall switch, which controls my lights. And with that, this page monitors the state of any or all the modules you have, or I call them modules, connections, but then they list it as modules, that you wish. And so the light module is the TP-Link module. So what I did to add that was I would go to presets. I would go to TP-Link. I can control brightness, which I can't because this is not a dimmer switch, but I can control the power. And so I'll go power. I could go separately with power on, power off, or I could go power toggle. And and then when you have these buttons, what else comes with these presets? These are total dupes, but what comes with these presets are, and this is actually the module. I should I want to be careful when I present this and make sure I'm right. But anyways, on the presets that come with it, you can go to feedback, and so I say, hey, the TP-Link module. So that's its title on the button. Line break. A line break is just you tell it where to break it, and it will with the slant in, and then under the feedback, it'll say, hey, if the lights are on, if the lights are off, if the module is on, if the module is off. So it says if the module is on, when the connection, when matches specified status, so the connection, TP-Link Casa Smart, is okay, warning, error, or disabled. So this one is for the okay. It makes the black text on green background. And then I added these little green circles. And so there's green circles and red circles. So if I turn it off, you'll see that not only does the green background go away, but the green dot changes to a red dot. And that's actually a graphic. The dot is a transparent graphic where the green background to gray background is actually just the color control of the button itself. So I can turn that on and off, and these feedbacks give me the different state as far as color codes and so forth. To your question is, I wanted this button to be one button. I don't want to burn two buttons, one for an on and one for an off. I wanted a single button. So that's kind of the premise behind it all, right? Now you can do toggle, and because this module developer happened to provide that as a toggle. My warning to anybody who uses toggle is toggle, it depends on how they code it, but there's a lot of toggles that literally just toggle. So the question is, was it off when you started toggling, or was it on when you started toggling? And so I like to be more explicit than that, so I have, known results, right? But toggle's available, and if it works for you, it's great. So by default, this initial drop of this button only had the tab when it said action, right? And with that, it had the press and release. Well, I wanted to be able to press and release it, but only have it do one thing, which it says enable or disable. So it says the TP-Link module, do you want it to be toggled? Do you want it to be enabled, or do you want it to be off? And so I said I want it to be off. And that's all it does. So I can press and release, and it just does a single action on press, ignoring because there's nothing defined under release. But I want to be able to press it again when I want to turn it back on. So I clicked on add step, which created the step 2 tab. And I said, this time, make that connection enabled. And that's the essence of the latch behavior. If I'm going to go to my physical Stream Deck here, and but if I press and release on my physical Stream Deck, you'll see it's off. I've got both hands. I'm not touching any more buttons. I press and release it again, and now it's on. And that was the first press and release was all built within step 1. The second press and release was all built into step 2. Now it's a super simple example because there's only one action under press of each of those tabs, but they gave us more. They removed the latch checkbox, which was a really simple to understand approach, but it latched it between the press and release. Now you can get a press set of actions and a release set of actions, and then have step 2 available for the next time you press and release it. Now, I haven't found a use case for it yet in my world, but you're not forced to have to use step 2 if there's a use case that says, but if this happens, cancel step 2. I know there's a way to pull all that off, but I just haven't found an applicable way to test all that yet.
So let me ask this, because here's my use case for it. I have a bunch of buttons that have repeated meetings that I join in Zoom. And they're just all the same kind of thing. They just joined a different meeting. Because I have a lot of clients that I go to the same meeting. I just want to press it, it joins the meeting. But what I want is to press it and have feedback so that when I'm looking at the group of buttons, I know that the one that I'm in is the red one because it's changed. But when I give it that feedback, once I release my hand, it goes away. It only does it while I'm pressing. So do I then have to also give it the same feedback on the release action? Does that make sense?
The feedback,
because that's the only way I can change the background color of the button is on the press action to have some kind of feedback, right?
Yeah.
And so I have
yeah,
that, and it's super cool. And when I press it, it in fact turns red.
Yeah.
But then as soon as I release it, it is not red anymore.
Yeah. So let me try to break down for everybody what you're really doing, because you're using 2 modules to pull that off. One, you're using the action from a third-party module. Which one? Who did you say it was for?
It's for Zoom. I mean, it's for ZoomOSC. It's just
Okay,
a join meeting. So it's the join meeting
Zoom
preset.
join
and
meeting.
But
you're creating, in order to create a visual response, you're using the internal module to companion that says, hey, when I press a button, any button, when I press a button, change the style.
Okay.
And when you add that, then you can tell it which button, and then you can define the background color and it changes. So you've created a visual that makes you think that that action actually did something. Like if you press that button, but you don't successfully join the meeting, that button color is still going to be the same, because it's not truly changing a color based on the status or success or not success of the actual action, where there's a lot of actions that are built into the modules by the developers that are true feedback. And that is, it's only going to give you this feedback if in fact this is happening.
If it makes the link.
Yeah. And I totally get that. And I've done exactly the same thing. Like the light on my Stream Deck that changes color. Let me go to that page real quick. When that changes color off and on, I did exactly, I'm pretty sure I did exactly what you did. It's just a kind of a creative approach, but not a true live.
So if it were a true approach, then I'd have to have some kind of trigger or something that said, if this joins, then it changes this color.
Yeah. But I would
I may just be dreaming, as I often do.
No, no, it's not true.
You say it can do this, and my brain is like, can it do it this way?
When you think about this, let's talk this through a little further. When you press and release, you basically, you're attempting to join a meeting, but you also want to change the color of the button. And so, but you said to me, but it's changing the color, let's say from red to green. it's going from green to red when I let up on the button.
Right.
Well, I'll say that's because you released, you have what's in the release action. So you should move your change to green
Mm-hmm.
to the release section, not the press section. So that will allow you to let the button release, and it will keep the green. Then
And it will be artificial because it's not
it's
attached.
artificial, but it's
It will
still
give me comfort that I want. Even, I mean, because I'll know if I
correct.
logged into a meeting or not. But it'll just remind me because really it is very superficial. It's just so that in case I'm like staring down at my deck, I know which meeting I'm in.
That's right.
So I can do it artificially if I just do it as a release action, and I would have to like do something way more out of my thing to make it true. But I don't think I need it that way. And no one probably has this nonsense use case scenario that I often find myself with. So that's
oh, I think it's probably more popular than you realize. But as far as wanting visual feedback, sometimes it's true blue and sometimes it's a facade, but it still can be helpful. And so it just depends on how strong that and critical that dependency is for accuracy, right?
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, you bet. What any other thoughts or questions? All right. So let's take a blank page. I need to get this overlay fixed on my Stream Deck. But let me go into, let's go to the first page on this. And I have my vmix PTZ as well. Did that? Yeah, it's kind of there. So those are my, that's me. So those are my physical Stream Decks on my desk. And the left one is boy, that's weird. Okay. Is primarily, if I put it back to that page, is primarily my master, if you will, my master navigation page. So you can get that in picture a little bit better. The right one is, and you can see everybody's in this meeting. I mean, it's got you all loaded up and spotlight choices and so forth. That's the page that changes the most. The one exception that I really actually just made is on, if I press the vmix button, it will actually change it on this Stream Deck by intention, because that's vmix versus most everything else is Zoom related. And so I just wanted to be able to quickly go to Zoom and change, a camera feed, and then hit this return button, and go right back to the navigation page. Everything else, if I zoom out here, you'll see as I go through gallery, arrival, you'll see the right Stream Deck change to the different views and tasks and so forth. So, and there's that status page we were looking at a moment ago. So that's the way that's built. I think if I, just go through this a little bit, it will jog some memories of, even simple things. The simplest of things is on the left Stream Deck to be able to, click on the vmix button, and design wise, my vmix button is in the bottom right corner by intention, in exactly the same position as the return button. And that's just so I can bounce there, bounce back, bounce there, and bounce back. And so I can do it without having to look, if you will. And so position, really is something that I think a lot of people will eventually, take a consideration when they're designing. The other thing I'll do is on the second Stream Deck over here. I've got several pages done, but I'm not completely done. But if I page through these, you'll see that consistently on the bottom left corner, I'm always displaying the current date and time. And so, whatever page I'm on, not that I'm always interested in it, but it's always there if and when available. I always have a place to look and have that date and time. So we'll look at that. What's it take to get that displayed? It's not as simple as a preset to just drag and drop, but can it be built? The answer is absolutely yes. So if I go back to the left Stream Deck, so on the main navigation page is to go from the vMix button to the vMix page and then return back to that. Is if we take a look, let me go to the Mac screen and share this piece. So, because this gets us into actually a way heavier conversation than one might expect. I think 3.0 might support this natively now on these page changes, but when I started building this in 2.4.2 and early 3.0, it didn't. And so what I had found, what I wanted to be able to do is basically, call an action that says, go to a page, but have that one variable, be changeable, page 1 or page 3 or page 10, but have it be a single reference, which is the exact use for a variable. So when I leave a page, which you saw on my navigation page to go to the vMix page, I'm leaving page 1. And so when I press the vMix button, I'm first telling it where I'm departing from. And that's this first variable right here that gets set from the get-go. And so it says it's a custom variable, and the custom variable that I created was called go to page. Well, where does that happen? I mean, like, go to page has to exist. It actually has to be created as a custom variable. And so you go, hey, I have a use for that. I'll go to the variables tab. I'll go to custom variables, and you can see that it's right here up top. It was one of the first things I did, but I created a go-to page variable. The creation part of it is at the bottom of the page, and easier to see when you don't have a big list, but this is where you create a variable. And so you just name it here, and I'll just put in here, my page, and I'll click add. So now there's a new custom variable called my page. You are free to store any value you want there. You're free to update that value whenever you need to. You're free to call upon that value. So if I say go to page X, and X is a variable, it'll say, essentially it resolves to go to page 10, and whatever the value of X is. And so that's the big value of variables. So I have one called go to page. The current value is 1. And as I navigate, I'll do it on my physical Stream Deck, but as I navigate, actually I'm not implementing that with these buttons anymore, just this one. So my use of it has changed a bit, but with that, its current value is 1. And so it does that first. It sets the value of the go-to page to the value that I wish. So that's page 1. I'm leaving the navigation page, which is page 1, and I'm going to the next action. This was a little bit of a find on my part that I just wasn't aware of. But what I wanted to be able to do was that I wanted to take that custom variable. This is going, not coming back. But I wanted to be able to jump pages dynamically with code. And so I found out that I could send this command from the module TCP UDP, and because it supported the page sets. And the way I found this out is here under the settings tab, a lot of us just overlook this remote control tab or section, and these aren't just sheer examples. These are like the examples. Like these are the commands remotely that you can send over IP to make this companion do something. And so if it says, if you're using the TCP UDP connection, you can do a page set, page up, page down, bank press, and so forth. And I thought, and that was after I looked through HTTP. Guess what it doesn't have? I can't change a page with HTTP protocol. I can't change a page, or I kind of could. I think, no, I couldn't change a page with the OSC protocol either. But I found under TCP, I'm like, that one can. And so I thought I'm going to use that because that will take a variable and so forth. And so that's what caused me to start using that. And so that's my command. I say, hey, page set. That's the command of that module we just looked at. I'm giving it the variable for the page number I want to go to, followed by another variable called SD01, which is the ID of my Stream Deck. And that's how I have SD1 and an SD2 variable, and they each have the Stream Deck IDs uniquely. That's where you get that off the Surfaces page, but it stores these two values. And now I can tell it, hey, if I'm on 1, I want you to change the page on 2. Or if I'm on 2, I want you to change the page on 1, or with my vmix button, I'm telling it to change it on itself, right? So go from page 1 to page 2, but do it all on this Stream Deck. And so it gives me the ability to push and shove. I'm confident if I talk to Chris Sabato, that he probably I know he uses it, but I don't know. I would be pretty confident this isn't the way he does it. So there's, when it comes to coding and logic, there's always a ton of ways to approach it. But that was the way at the time that I had to approach it to meet some resolve. So that's that. I'm still spotlit there. So when I go, gallery order, arrival order, and so forth, if I spotlight the or bring up the PTZ cam again, I think I have it here. Let me jump that out so you can see both. Is there again when we go gallery, it is changing the right page, the second Stream Deck on the right side, and same kind of an approach, same command actually, TCP UDP, but it's got these two different variables. It says, hey, go to the gallery order page num on the second Stream Deck. The vmix button was SD01. This one says, no, do it on SD02. And so change the page of that. Keep in mind, all the whole profile is built here. So here's page 1, page 2, page 3. All the pages are here in a single profile, but now we've got 2 physical Stream Decks, and we can go to some of the pages on this one and some of the other pages on this one, or cause this one to go to that one. And so it's not that we've separated profiles or the build or anything like that. It's one stack of pages, and then just 2 devices or more that that you can make changes to. My very first approach, before I had 2 Stream Decks, I just had one XL. I built a bottom row. Some of you saw this. I built a bottom row, and that was my navigation buttons. And that bottom row was consistent across all the pages I built. And then, the functionality of a page would vary based on what page I'm on. And And that was cool because I could just click, 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 and it would change on the same stream deck, but keep the navigation the same, but give me the gallery view or the participants view or, spotlight or actions and so forth. So the design, like the layout of my stream decks changes a little bit all the time. Just, things that I wish in a show or something that I would have had more near my disposal or better placed or whatever the case may be. So let's go back and start with a blank page again though. Any questions before we go there? Gonna literally build something. All right. Now here's my question. Does anybody here say, I'd like to build? I'd like to see how to what? Give that opportunity first. Anybody? Nobody? Come on. Tamara's like full of ideas, I know. All right, Ray.
I just put the solve that I did for my fake color change problem. I created a leave button that when I press the leave button on the release, it changes the join button back to normal.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just, it's kind of breaking down the logic and all the little thresholds between each piece of logic and finding out where should that happen, and so good to go.
I do love that about Companion. I love the Stream Deck native software because it's just so easy to set up. You can do it when you're in the middle of a meeting. You're like, oh my gosh, I need this button, and you can just create it. And Companion's a little bit more thought processy than that, but I do like that you can do some multiple things.
Yeah, but with that comes a ton of flexibility, really a ton of creativity, but much much closer.
The fact that you can take action on buttons, like I can change the color of another button on a different page if I needed to. It's like that.
Well,
kind
and
of
if you had this button, you had a button that does this. And you go, but I want that button on every page because that's like my hottest, most popular button. Do you copy and paste that button on every page you build? Or you can which I love. Store that button, let's say back on hidden page 99. It's not really hidden, but you just like never go to 99. but it's a button on 99 that has a style and a look and also actions. And so you go, if I went to 99, it would do what I want it to do.
Right.
But what you can put consistently across all your other pages is a button that presses that button. And so now if you wanted those 12 buttons to do something different, you just have to go to the button on page 99, make the change. Now instantly all those 12 buttons that are pushing that button instantly do the new thing that you added to that single reference. And so really
that changed my life when I figured out that was a possibility,
because
and things like also a Zoom link that may get changed, you could just change it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then you just change
you can
it
do
once,
it with
everywhere.
I kind of started toying with this, but you can inherit style. You can say, hey, make this or these buttons look like another button that's already formatted, if you will, color and so forth. And you can reference button for style as well. And, it's just, variables, that example of a button back here that is then referenced out here to simplify making a change and they all inherit it is exactly what a variable can do for you as well. Store that value, it's centrally referenceable, and you can call it or reset the value from anywhere when you do anything as well. So it can be your best friend for sure. All right, so let's build something. I'll just do snippets, and this is where I'm going to add what we're going to build is going to be ZoomOSC related, because Andy's our best friend, and this is Zoom Test Kitchen, and so it's the platform, and they've extended our ability to do lots of great, cool things. So I'll just kind of divide.
Just Just
Yeah.
Jeff, just before you start, I just wanted to let you know that YouTube is not seeing you full screen when you're showing things.
Yeah, I'm in gallery view right now, so
Okay.
that will fix that. Thank you. So blank slate. So let me first, we reviewed this earlier. Let me reset so we have page numbers and so on. It's not a have to, but I'll try to keep it as standard, and as well, I'll go turn that switch off so that there are arrows instead. So that's kind of the default look of a Stream Deck page. So let's take the scenario that says I'm going to be managing a Zoom meeting, and I want to be able to see at any given time if there's digital hands that are raised. I want to be able to see the first 5 digital raised hands. Okay, and so that we know that the Zoom behavior is when you raise your hand, you get thrown to the top left, and then the second one and the third one and so forth. So it's a ZoomOSC feature. So I'm going to go to presets. I'm going to go to ZoomOSC, and it says there's a section here that says select from gallery, and you can see we're in this meeting, we're already populated, although there's up to 49 positions, right? So depending on the resolution and capability of your computer in the Zoom client, you can tell it to display 25 in the gallery or 49 if your system's capable. And so I'm going to say that's position 1. Yes, it happens to say Jeff Widgren, but Ray, go ahead and raise your digital hand, and you'll see that Ray should occupy that space instantly. Kind of knocked me out of the game because it's all about who is in that gallery position. Not that I owned it. The gallery position is a host of whoever ends up there. So it's the Zoom behavior that will change who occupies that space. And so now Ray
Is that true if you're in
occupies
host
space.
gallery
What's
mode?
that?
Is that true if you were in focus, like the follow host? Would it
As long as
override follow
ZoomISO,
host?
as long as ZoomISO is seeing in the ZoomISO client,
Mhm.
because keep in mind, let me go back and make a few assumptions. That's my Mac machine, and that's ZoomISO, right? I mean, ZoomISO isn't just that engine,
Right.
and that also kind of subcontains ZoomOSC, but ZoomISO, ZoomOSC is a Zoom client. It's a piece of software that can let you join, host meetings as well. To be able to get accurate feedback on a Stream Deck page or companion page that you build that is referencing gallery position, that ZoomISO client has to be in gallery view, period. You can't not do that. If I change this to speaker view and now came back to the companion builder, Ray is still there, but now Ray, go ahead and lower your hand. And the hand went down, but Ray didn't move on the companion page. Why didn't I get repopulated? And it's all about the ISO client is not in gallery view. It has no idea to update that. And so if I put it back in gallery view and go back here and we can probably wait it out. But if you want to raise your hand again, Ray, bounce in
Is
and
it
then
the same?
bounce out.
Is it the same for Mac and PC, Jeff?
Yeah, I used to be able to answer the PC questions really well because that's what I was on, and Mac always did better gallery tracking than Windows did. I don't know what that comparison is like today. That was more of a Zoom SDK thing, but with ZoomISO becoming what it is and its popularity and all, And if you buy, that ZoomISO license, you've got OSC packaged in it. Well, ZoomISO is a Mac solution. And so I'm just kind of all bought into the Mac platform underneath it all. So now go ahead and lower your hand, Ray. And it's not updating. Let me check something real quick here. So now I reset the module to see if it's that or something else. But needless to say, we'll keep building this out and make this happen. So we've got gallery position 1, what I say, 5. So we'll drag out 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And those are presets. That's not the only way to get it. This is just like, this is the easiest way to get started to make it happen. So with that, then you say, well, if I see that somebody is there and they've got their hand raised and so forth, what's going to happen next, right? You would expect, if you're managing a meeting or a show or whatnot, that you'd want to spotlight them. You might want to unmute them or mute them. If they got there because they raised their hand, at some point you want to lower their hand and all those things. So what comes with a preset first is the display. And so it says gallery position 1, and then it does a line break, and then it references the variable that references the name of the person in gallery position 1. And that's how it displays initially, but it's just there. Conveniently, it's just there. So on my Stream Deck, I said, I think I did GP01, I believe. Gal POS 1. So I changed it and said Gal POS 01. And so you can edit the label that it comes with so that it has a look that you desire to have. You can change the formatting of it. And so my gallery page happens to be like this pale yellow with black text. So you've got that flexibility. And then I made my fonts smaller, because some names, as you know it, can be really long, especially there can be kind of a first and a maiden and a married name and so forth. So I just go small and I go top left and make that happen. I will say, perfect one button before you drag all your buttons out, because if you keep tweaking style, then and you finally land on it, then you're going to have to go apply all that style to every single button. And it's easier if you go, hey, this is where I'm at and this is where I'm staying. It's easier to just copy that and paste and then go into position 2 and just change it to a 2. And position 3, I need to change the label also. And I think it's a bit simpler to make these numeric modifications than style, which is text color and background color and font size. They're all clicks and drops and so forth. So pick your passion, but it's kind of live and learn on making it happen. So realize now as well, gallery position 1 is displaying this top information correctly, and it's based on position 1. This one that now I edited, that should actually be a 2, is based on position 1 also, because I copied and pasted the button. So you also have to update that number 2 and so forth as well. So needless to say, build accordingly. So when you've got those buttons built out. What else what else comes with the preset here is the action is to pre-select the user. So when you click on that button, it pre-selects them. All it lets the ZoomOSC module know is that your intention is based on this person or these people. And so you click, and you say spotlight, or you click, and you say unmute. And so it's select and then take action or execute. Now the execute can also be, let's say 30 minutes prior to go live, could be that you're in the meeting with your speaker panel. And so you've got those 6 speakers in the meeting, and you could easily just go click, all 6 of them. And then you could add them to a group. And now you can manage your whole meeting from the group, spotlighting speakers, unspotlighting speakers, and so forth. And you'll never lose them because they'll always be in that group. Even though you've got 700 other people in attendance, you won't have a problem chasing or doing a quick search or all those other creative ways we've scrambled to find that next speaker or whatnot. So there's a number of actions that or the workflow, either select an individual and do something, or select multiple individuals and do something. But that do something can be adding them to a group for further later management, because now you could select 4 folks and spotlight or add spotlight, and it would spotlight all 4. Or you could select all 4 people, add them to a group, then the meeting starts. Now all you have to do, if they're all one panel that's meant to be shown at the same time, you could just select the group and spotlight the group. And so now you've got less buttons to even have to press. Just say, spotlight that group, all members of that group instead. So can simplify the workflow and the workload as well. So as far as that, so let's say we assume that we're going to select. We'll just work our way kind of down this column. And so the next thing we want to do, let's go for a preset that deals with audio. And so let's do a toggle mute. And so we would select them. They all lit up because they're all referring to position 1, but select them and then mute or unmute. And and that you can make that happen. Let's say the next one is we're doing the digital hands. And so we can find a preset here for, which one is it under? Global participants, group, devices, actions, reaction name. Trying to remember which one. Yeah, there it is. So we can toggle the hand, or I like explicitness, and that is, lower their hand. And then finally the spotlighting. And so you say, we want to mute them, or actually this one could be a unmute. I think, yeah, we did toggle. So we've got the toggle mute, the lower hand. And so I'm going to replace the toggle mute with a unmute. So be explicit there as well. And so we'll say explicitly unmute them, explicitly lower their hand, and then spotlight as well. And we'll say the spotlighting, clear, toggle, or add. I'll say add. Single spotlight is 1 person, that 1 person full screen, which in their Zoom's drop down is replace spotlight, right? It'll wipe out what's there and put 1 person there. Add spotlight will either add 1 person if that's all you have selected, or it will add all 3 people that you have selected as well. So I commonly find myself using add spotlight. So just showing visually the workflow, select the person, unmute them, lower their hand and spotlight them. That's basically what I refer to as bring them on stage, right? And so it feels like that's a bit tough. So how do we simplify that? Well, we could create a button that, let's say we call it on stage, and I'll size it up a touch. And that's fine. And let's say since it's something we're doing with success, we'll make it green as a go. Now these 3 steps, which are 3 buttons, we'll actually put them in behind a single button and create 3 actions that take place. So now in the on-stage button, we'll add the unmute. And so we can open this folder and go to the OSC module, and you have all these options. And it's like, I'd say that's the long way. We know it's called unmute or something similar. And so I just typed that. This actually searches all the modules in Companion, and the ones that have an unmute show, which most of them, none of them do. The OSC module says, yeah, I have an unmute. And so I select that. It ends up as an action here. And I can either name somebody, I could name myself and be very explicit about who to unmute, or I can leave this blank. And because the button is selected, it will recognize what that selection list is by the buttons you pressed prior to executing this unmute action. And so the same kind of practice holds true on the lower hand. So I'm going to search for maybe lower. There it is, lower hand. And it has the same guidance there. It says keep blank when you pre-select your individuals. And then finally, the last one is we'll search for spotlight. And there's that add spotlight. And so now we've got 3 actions under a single button, which means we can delete these and take this one, and just for the sake of visibility, we'll move it up there. So now we have a single button that does all 3 things. A touch of guidance that sometimes these things can happen so quickly they don't happen. And sometimes I'll have dependencies on one another. These don't necessarily, but I'm in the habit of often telling it to do relative delays, kind of top to bottom. Do the first action as quick as you can. Do the second action 50 milliseconds later. Do the third action another 50 milliseconds later. And it just helps ensure the success of the top to bottom process. So I'll turn on relative delays. I won't put a delay into the first one, but I will on the second and the third. And so at that point, we can make that happen. I do see that I've messed up my module somewhere, somehow. Let me check something. Oh, I'm on verbose again. How'd that happen? Let's see if I can get this going again. What's interesting, for those of you who've spent time in a little bit of time in 3.0, I'm going to bounce the ZoomOSC module, but watch the screen on those 3 actions that I have referenced right now. I'm going to turn it off. 3, 2, 1. It's off. And those actions, I mean, they don't go away completely, but the ability to do or define, it says it's undefined. Well, there's no action, there's no code available right now with the module off. It's very dynamic. I think it's a great visual that that changes on the fly if you're having an issue with your module itself working successfully. Let me get some more gallery positions here. And get these updated real quick. Got 1, there's a plane 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. Keep waiting for it to update, but I'm not getting a whole lot of success there. Not quite sure why. It was there, but then it took a heap. Beta. On that again. Yeah, well, we'll take a look and see. Questions out of anybody while we're seeing if we can get this back online.
Jeff, my experience in 3.0 is that very often the gallery view doesn't populate right away, that I have to switch away to the list view and then back over to the gallery view. I don't know why, but it seems to be a bug of some sort.
Yeah. And when I every once in a while it runs into this this pause moment, and I have a heck of a time trying to get it to reread.
Now I have a question then.
Yeah.
Based on what David said, I tried the same thing, and there's a ping button. And I've noticed that helped me. So I don't know if that's what you're speaking of, David. I'm just not sure, but that's what I did. I don't know.
Let's try it. Let's see. Ping. Hit it. Up the log data here real quick.
Yeah, ping is down under data and custom actions.
Yeah, I added it to my page, and I reset my module again, and it's tracking the active speaker. I can see in the logs, but grabbed me as a gallery position. Let me do a request list. See if we can find enough here to at least report back some findings. Okay, got yeah. Yeah, bear with me a second. Let me I'm going to restart this module. Not just the module, but ISO. And I have a feeling, well, you know what? I'm not going to restart ISO, because ISO, there's nothing that's changed on ISO here in my last few days. What has changed is a new build of Companion, and I've lost good solid data streams from the beta builds once before, and so I'm going to quit companion.
Yeah, Jeff, I was going to suggest that too. I noticed
Yeah.
that sometimes.
Yeah, let me bring up previous. Got companion. This is 5753. Let me
Yeah, what I noticed, Jeff, with the
5745.
modules, if sometimes the module just won't react to the beta of the companion, I just kill companion itself, restart companion, and then it seems to fix the problem
Yeah.
during the beta.
So this companion module. Launch that. So 45. Launch that. Now bounce. Close the list. Yeah, I don't know. Bummer on being able to get some good live data flowing here. It was there for a while, but something snagged it. So my apologies on that. If we rolled back to, I mean, some other things that, you know, they talked about, you know, graphic development for buttons. You know, some said they were using Canva. I happen to use Photoshop, but I've started to put Canva to the test on. It's really putting me to the test on Canva because just getting familiar with that product. But you see this heading is that heading is my heading, if you will. That is part of my graphic. The natural kind of out of the box behavior is this look. that companion puts its own title bar, which is page 3, position 2, and with that, you have those space takers, if you will. So I was wondering what that third digit was. They've added this. I hadn't noticed that before. So on a single step button, it's 3-7, page 3, column 7, page 3, column 8. But when you have a button that has 2 steps involved, which is over here on the right side, you see those 2 tabs on the step 1 and then number 2. When you have that, then you can see that right now it's on step 1. Now it's on step 2. Now it's on step 1. So yeah, first time I've seen that. But there's space takers if you plan on wanting that real estate, those pixels, and so I have gone to settings and I turn that title off, and then I end up with the whole 72 pixels by 72 pixels that you can occupy. And like Chris had mentioned, you've got if you create a button of your own, and I do, let's see, excuse me, line 1, break it, line 2, break it, line 3. So when I do that in auto size, it finally gets it, small enough. Line 6, one more, line 7. So in the smallest text, which is, if you go 14, you lose lines. If you go down to 7, auto size finally sized it down to 7. And so turn me off for a second. That's the amount of, character data. And then really, when you're designing and so forth, I use, I try to consider, I haven't perfected this yet, but the color of my title bar is a grouping of something, right? So my green here is it's anything related to one or more selected individuals. These are actions that can take place. If I've got my go-tos are all kind of red labeled with white text. I think I have, yeah. If I go to groups, group management, group 1 is all indicated with the blue versus the purple versus the orange. And this is going to be 4, but I haven't built that out yet. So you have like color coding for grouping and then, possibly a graphic image of some sort, an icon. If you're a visual person, right? That graphic can burn into your brain maybe more effectively than the word add, remove, select. But it's up to you, how much screen real estate you want and how much design you want to do and so forth. You can do a combination. I have one back here, my join meeting page, where there's the 10 keypad, but then this is a graphic. And but when you start typing in numbers, the numbers are dynamic from companion, centered top to bottom, but then puts it kind of where the graphic was designed. So I had to figure out where that text was going to be if I told it to center it, and then design my graphic accordingly to host it. So kind of a combination of the two, where some of these other buttons are straight up text, no graphics, just background colors and foreground colors. Let's see if we have any data yet. Yeah, nothing. Weird. All right, let me try one more thing here.
Jeff, I'll throw a question out for you.
Yep.
Related to font size. I guess there is no official way in Companion, and I'm wondering if that's a Stream Deck issue, aka Elgato issue for the Stream Deck, or what is? Do you happen to know if there's reasoning for the font choices in Companion?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it would be a interesting conversation to have and go, what were your drivers to choose what you chose, right? But yeah, I don't know what they were up against. I mean, you don't have choice of font, right? You have a, a given font and then only certain given sizes from 44 down to 7. 44 is kind of a new larger number, but needless to say, I think 44 was, I wonder if that shows up differently when I turn on the header, go back to buttons. It's still there. But anyways, yeah, I don't know. Never had that conversation. really wish I could get this reconnected successfully, but just not happening. But at the same time, I mean, it's a beta. I mean, what can you do or say or playing with and learning on? Leading, bleeding, still under development, not released to the general public yet, but so it comes and goes. So anyways, I have to try to figure out kind of what's behind it so I can submit to the folks some findings. All right. Status change, yeah. All right. Well, that kind of puts a little bit of a pause on. I think future looking forward, we will, when we come back to this, we'll work on very specific projects or builds, you know, and versus kind of encompassing it all and just go with this lab. And we may even, time permitting, create a couple of pop-up opportunities every once in a while on, you know, off of the Friday afternoon schedule of just some builds in the evening. So workshops and that are specific. So if you have any that you want to, you know, work on, submit them if you want into Discord and get those in the lineup and build them out live, struggle together, if you will. But Tamara, any thoughts that anything you want to try or give a shot at that
No, I'm
isn't-
still, I'm still, you know, just trying to make. I've been trying to find out how to make the things I do natively in Stream Deck move completely over. So I was super excited to figure out stupid things like press a button and it opens a website. I was like, yay. So I'm, you know, I think my use case is so different from everyone else's. And you know, my hopes and dreams one, which can't be done
Sure.
yet, but I think it will be able to be done soon. So I have faith.
Yeah, I hear you.
Every time I get like just a little bit of information, I think of 100 things it can do, and then I'm off trying them and seeing, you know, well, if it can do this, can it do this? Same thing with Zoom. I'm like, oh, it can do these things. I'm sure it can do these other things, and
That's right.
I run whole productions in like vanilla Zoom doing crazy things it was never created for. So
Yep, I hear you. It's fun to, you know, kind of press things
y'all are pushing me to
maybe
do new and different.
beyond. See if I can get signed. I'm gonna relaunch relaunch this. Let's see. See if we can get a data stream again or not. Give it one last shot. Rejoin the meeting. All right, here I come. Admit. Make myself a co-host. Make the ISO machine a co-host. Okay. There's the data. Huh. Let's figure that one out and let them know, because that fired right up. Got the real data in the whole bit. So yeah, go ahead and Tamara, raise your digital hand. Make sure it's dynamically updating and yep. There it is. All right, so we'll do that. We'll solo spotlight you. Let's see if I've got that. Let's select you. Let's solo spotlight you. There we go. And you should have unmuted as well. So do you have a request to unmute?
I don't, but I think I may have unmuted it at the same time.
Oh,
I
gotcha.
probably overrode your system by accident.
Gotcha. And then we throw you back. All right. So yeah, now it's working like it's supposed to. But I quit ISO and relaunched it. So I'll have to see. Don't know. Really, I really hate not knowing kind of what triggered the kill, but
Does that not work with just OSC, or does it work with OSC?
what's that?
The hand raise thing that you're doing, is that only an ISO thing, or is that an OSC thing?
Oh no, it's all OSC.
Okay.
Yeah, and we can take a look at because I'm not doing anything with it, right? So I'll spotlight my screen. So when you raise your hand, well, what part of that experience do you want to look at? Can do a couple of.
No, I'm just trying to figure out, because I took my little toe in the water with OSC. So I have OSC Pro, but I don't have ISO. So,
well, ISO is just video and audio, right? You're pulling video, pulling audio. So everything that's actionable and so forth is all OSC. So the one thing we didn't really look at it is triggers. We talked about them, but one of the triggers is have one that's active speaker, and now they're turned off. These are switches, and so they've been turned off. But if I turn that on and go to buttons and go to group, such and such, and I've shown it before, but you can see group 3 is now populated with you and me because we've both been active speakers, and I just turned that trigger on. But that's what that trigger does, is it says, hey, when the variable that tracks who's the active speaker changes, then select that user and make them a member of group 3. So it's kind of like taking attendance of verbal contributors. But the one about the next speaker notice is what I called it. That one in particular says, hey, when a condition becomes true, this being the condition, gallery position 1 has a hand raised. So if that condition is true, which means somebody raised their hand, then do this, and it is select that person in position 1. I'm going to skip over this little workaround that's now fixed, but select that user and send them a message, send a chat via DM, and it says that. So this trigger is now on, just turned it on. So now go ahead and raise your hand, Tamara.
Okay. Give me a second.
And Mike, if you'll raise your hand also. So Tamara's in position 1, Mike is in position 2. This logic says it's really only looking for position 1. So Tamara, did you get a chat?
I did. So be sure to unmute your microphone when prompted. You're up next.
Yeah.
Unmute.
Mike, you're in position 2. Did you get a message in chat?
Did not.
Did not. So now, Tamara, you can go ahead and lower your hand.
Right. Give me a moment.
And Mike can watch his chat because now he's scooting over to position 1. And did you get a message with that shift, Mike?
Did not in the meeting chat.
No.
He doesn't love you. No.
Now, is it because I had my hand up the first time? And
Well,
maybe
I mean, it
there's a
would be an
var-
interesting find. The intention is for, everybody to shuffle up, and when they end up in that critical position for a message that they get it. So the test would be as you shifted from 2 to 1 and you're saying you did not get the message. So then I would say lower your hand and re-raise it and see if that triggers it.
Okay, lowered and raising. And just double checking. No.
Oh, now you will.
Oh, there. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's test this again. It's critical that the ISO client is in gallery view. I blew that. So let's do it one more time. So Tamra, here, let me delete these messages from the
Okay.
sender.
Reaction time.
Okay, so no messages in your chats, right?
Correct.
And so now Tamra, go ahead and raise your hand, and Mike, raise your hand.
And I got a message from you.
And Mike did not.
Did not.
Now, Tamara, lower your hand, and Mike will shift over to position 1, and now you got the message.
Did.
Right? Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So whether there's one hand or 100 hands, as that position 1, once you're there, and landing in position 1, will your show, event, or meeting afford you to do it? Like this one event in particular, I know we always invite the top left position to come speak to, the speaker, ask the speaker a question. And it's 99% of the time it's that very first position. So sending them an automated get ready type message works great. If out of your 8 to 10, 12 hands raised, you're going to select randomly in your event or meeting, then that trigger would hold no play, and you'd want to just turn the trigger off. And
Now,
so,
Jeff, could you not have it anytime somebody does put up their hand, just to send it automatically without it being in position, or no?
You could could
yeah.
make your what you send different too. You could just be like, be ready to unmute your microphone when prompted, and
Yep.
then it's not up next. It could just be triggered off.
Yeah. So the thought would be, really the question is, when you ask that, it's like, right now it's based on position 1. So could you do it on 2 and 3? And the answer is absolutely yes. But you'd have to add, an action for each, right? For each position. Question is what's the condition to your question? So the condition would be hands are raised, right? And I don't think we can tie into
So we
just
can't necessarily say if hands are
that. Like, yeah, I'm
send
trying
this message.
to think that out in here. So when I tried to figure this out, I was like, well, can I figure out if there's one or more hands, and then write a message to one or more individuals? So my process would be, I go back to connections to this dollar sign, which shows me the variables that are being tracked behind the scenes. And like there's 11 people in the gallery, and in position 1 is Jeff, and so forth. That group 3, that active speakers, that one triggers managing, there's the members, right?
Could you create a
so-
variable that is hand raised if there isn't one already there?
Yeah, but you still have, that doesn't, I mean, that's a place to that's like, there's a bucket to store something in,
Right.
but is there an event that I can still be fired on? Like can I, what's going to cause me to go save a value to that bucket? And that's that event. So I'm looking for something here possibly, right? So go ahead and raise your hand, Tamara or Mike or both. And I look at this and just, excuse me, just try to see, is there a variable here that pops up with both of your names in it that indicate groups, number of calls, participant one. Yeah, I don't see anything there indicating that. And there's one other place we can look under variables, and there's custom, but there's also the internal. And let's take a look there. Do a search.
Yeah, because if there is no workaround for this, you would basically have to just train your host to make sure they always choose position one.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
if-
I'm not seeing anything that that's measurable, that hey, hands raised, and then there's a list of, and so forth. So as far as the
It feels like you should be able to do it though, because
Mhm.
hand raising is an actionable.
well, it is, but
thing.
you think about the flow, is it's only there if the Zoom SDK,
Right.
of course Zoom knows they raised hands, but did they expose that event out through the SDK? And if it's not exposed through the SDK, there's no way a module can detect it and do anything with it, right? And so it's kind of like, where along the line, I mean, should it be, like as you say, it certainly it's doable because it is an event that took place. We're looking at it, right? But it's that code exposure
So
that
that would just, pardon my stupidity. that would have to be something that Zoom would put into their module that says if hands are raised, you can do something to it.
yeah.
Zoom would have to.
So
Yeah,
yes,
what Jeff means by that is Zoom would have to put it in the SDK, and then the person that is making the module would have to access the code in the SDK to get it from Zoom.
Got it. Got
yeah.
it. We had
That's
that,
it.
then we'd be able to use that as if
It's
this
a
happens.
trigger.
Then
Yeah,
Okay.
something to notice and respond to. But then you end up with a whole different. And there's I can already see there's a threshold of challenge that says, okay, so there's hand or hands raised. If it's hands plural, then you end up with a list or an array of people's names, or an array of Zoom IDs, and that then becomes a loop. Programmatically, it's a loop.
Right.
Send this message to each person,
So that
and
each time someone raises
that's
their
not
hand, it will resend
something.
the message to everyone else.
Yeah, that's not something that
That would not be.
companion handles, that raw coding. So and you say, well, how do we do it? How do we get close to that or kind of mimic that in companion? That would be the condition here being gallery position 1. You can add in the same trigger. You can add. I can duplicate this as well. This is an addition. You didn't used to be able to duplicate actions and or conditions or whatnot in the previous live. So I'm going to let me shrink the screen down a little bit, and I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to copy it, and we'll do 3. We'll do the first 3. So now I have hands raised, gallery position 1, gallery position 2, gallery position 3. Now, think about this. So I wonder if it's there yet. Yeah, they don't have help on it yet. But the question really is is this an and or is this an or
Mm-hmm.
between these three? Now my guess would be this is an and. So
Mm-hmm.
so these three conditions have to be true.
Have to be
And
true before something's
because
done.
it
Yeah.
says here on condition becoming true.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
with that, adding multiple conditions versus multiple actions is not
Yeah,
going
would
to
you,
be
Jeff?
helpful.
Each position would have to be its own event.
Correct. Yeah, trigger. Yeah, its own
Yeah,
trigger.
it's
Yeah,
trigger.
so position one, so position one select. Let me kill this. I used to have to creatively remember but the who it was, but I don't anymore. They fixed that in the code. So group four. Position one is selected. Send the message, kill the
I mean, I guess if you
four.
had endless amounts of time in your hands, you could create
Well, it's
actions
not
where you could say the message to position 4 is you are 4th in line. But then when it gets to 3rd, you're 3rd in line. Then it gets you. So you could write
yeah.
triggers for each gallery position that gives
Yeah,
them.
but then you'd get complaints because, like, you know, tell me I keep moving. You know what I'm saying? Like, then all of a sudden the user's gonna feel like they owe you some feedback because you're filling their chat window. It's like, okay,
That's assuming they read their chat window.
I know, right?
Some of our
All
fine.
right, so this is on something becoming true. It says when gallery position has a hand raised, select that position one, send them a message, and that says lower their hand. That doesn't make sense. I don't want to lower their. Oh, I have that turned off, so I'm going to delete that. All right, so select them, send them a message. So now that I feel like, oh, that's clean, that'll work for gallery position one. Let's go ahead and test it real quick. And drop your hands and re-raise. Okay. So you got a message on that, and so that's this trigger, next speaker notice. So that I should probably let's say gal POS 1 speaker notice. Oops. All right, so now that's a little bit more just descriptive because I'm about ready to copy it or duplicate it, right? And so I'll clone. I'll do it for the first 3 just for the sake of time. But I'll say this is gallery position 2 notice. It's based on position 2. And it sends it based on 2, selects the number 2. And then this one is 3, position 3 on the condition, and then position 3 on the selection, and then sends a message to the selected. All right. So now these 3 triggers, they're all on 1, 2, and 3. So go ahead and kind of drop the hands and re-raise them and see if all 3 of you get a message.
I got one.
Here, let me
Yep.
again, let me
Yeah, I got a message.
wish I
too.
could delete all the chat messages. I can delete several of them, but from the sender, which is the ISO machine, and its chat, you know, it has all the sent messages, and I could delete them. And you can probably see some of them disappearing, but it's a one at a time process.
No way
Yeah.
to, no
Too
way to make
many.
a companion button to get rid of those.
Delete.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean,
No?
that functionality is not there yet. But there's a lot of stuff coming. I mean, you know, the SDK, I mean, that's one of the big bends of having
Given
time
us
and
so much, and of
Andy.
course we want more.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Poor Andy.
Yeah.
He's so
Yeah.
tired
I saw, what was it? Oh, I saw, what was the name of the show? Saw it yesterday or last night. Anyways, it's about this. Oh, it was The Good Doctor. We were watching a new episode of The Good Doctor, and he was getting a malpractice suit thrown at him from a guy. So he and his wife had been driving down the road, and there was this car accident on the road, and they stopped, and this car had flipped, and there was nobody there helping them, and so they got out and helped them and saved their lives. But in the process, he had to amputate a hand on the one guy. So the guy sued him, and and the attorney is she has brand new attorney. It would be her first case, super sharp, and she's very OCD, and that was actually a challenge. Like when the prosecutor leaned back in his squeaky chair, it totally threw her for a loop because everything had to be in patterns of 3 or something in their world, and I don't understand all that, but it was definitely a challenge. So, anyways, take care, Bobby.
Thank you. Thanks.
When you guys just said that, we want more and so forth. Part of her closing argument was kind of reviewing what was done, which was basically having your life saved,
Right.
and maybe you should think about just saying thank you.
Right.
And I'm like, that's what we should do to Andy. Just say thank you. but I mean, part of being a software development group is hearing all the negative and asking for more, and but the good side to that is, if you really got it under control, is you recognize you really lit the fire under people. You
Right.
really got them a tool that got them excited and so forth as well. So it's all just part of managing it. But
It's all good.
interesting.
All right.
So yeah, all new feature requests have to end with a thank you. All right. Well, as always, good hanging out. Didn't go
Have a nice
quite as
weekend.
smooth as I would like to, but as when it finally get totally stable, then we'll go. But in the meantime, have a great weekend.
You too. Take it easy.
All right. See ya, Mike. We will see you as well. But let's see.
Did we end up saying Happy Patty's Day? St. Patty's Day?
No, we didn't, did we?
Yeah.
Happy St. Patty's Day. But anyways, the off-camera folks, thanks for coming, and goodbye. Have a great weekend. Scott, Jeremy, John, Hasmuck, and Gary. I don't know if I know Gary. I'd like to meet Gary sometime. Come back. But you wrote in the chat. So, all right, everybody, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time. If by chance you don't see a pop-up meeting announcement in the Discord channel for kind of something special in between. You have been here. All right, Gary. Thanks for coming back. All right. Talk to everybody later.